But this should be, you should be looking for Messy Puppet all age games. So I'm Ian and this is Julie. We're going to basically take you through a bit of our story, a bit of our journey, talk about how we've, or things that we've been involved in that have worked to engage with families in different ways. We've got a whole bunch of ideas to show you a little bit later on. We've got the ultimate in where to get resources from to share with you if you don't already know about it. Yeah, I'm just filling for a minute or two in case anybody else joins us, but I think we might as well make a start.
So how to share faith with children and families. I guess for some churches you've got children and families already part of who you are, and some churches you have no children and families. So before you can share faith with them, you've got to have some children and families to share faith with. I think most people probably, when you're thinking about children and families and church, think of toddler groups. A brilliant way to share faith or to get to know children and families, or families with under fives. It can be quite a resource heavy way of sharing with, getting to know children and families, because you need space, you need toys, you need people. But if that's what you've got, that is a brilliant way to engage with families. I came to church in Ipswich through toddler group, so they do work. If you've not got loads of space, you've not got loads of resources, you've not got loads of people, there are other ways of engaging with under fives. So some churches are just engaging with non-walking children, or with new parents, or in different ways. And if you haven't got the resources to do a full-blown toddler group, St Augustine's, we do a singing group, so a music and rhyme group, which just requires a space and 2 people run that. So that's not resource heavy, and that's a real way of bringing families in, and they get together and they sing and do action songs and do different things and share snacks together. Whilst we weren't able to be in buildings, they were able to do that in park, which made them really visible and enabled them to meet new families. So there's lots of different ways, rather than just doing a traditional toddler group. You can meet with children and families of under fives. But maybe you've not got any children and families, you've got no connection with children and families. What have you got? Everybody, or most churches, have got a school near them. Find a way to engage with the school. I know it's been harder during COVID, schools haven't wanted people in, but before COVID, and I know this will happen again, schools are crying out for people to go and read with children. A really good way of saying, we're here, we'll come and support you, we'll come and work with you. Just going into school and reading with children, you can really bless a school by going into school and volunteering to read. I don't know who's heard of Open the Book. I've been involved with Open the Book for lots and lots of years, and a really good way of taking stories into school. It's a programme that's designed for you. You can go in just as 2 people, or you can go in with a team of 10 people. You can tailor what you do to the people you've got. And schools love Open the Book. I know when I first started at Ravenswood School with Open the Book, I'd done some training and I thought I really need to go and do this in school. So I arranged a meeting with the head and went with trepidation, not knowing what response I'd get back from her. But I started to tell her about it and explain it to her. And she's going, when are you coming? She said, why have I not heard about this before? This is amazing. And just started a whole relationship with a school. So we were going into school doing open the book. Once your face gets known in school, the children recognise you. I got invited into the classroom to talk to children when they need an expert to come and talk to you when they do their Christianity topic in school. You're seen as the expert, so it's a really good way of engaging with the school and getting in with the school. And because Open the Book is a ready-made programme, you don't have to think about it for yourselves. You can pick it up and take it and do it. And there's lots of Open the Book expertise across Ipswich.
If other things though are needed, think about, where do people go? Where do families go? Where might you be able to meet with them? We have a partnership going along at the moment with the local library, which is one place to get involved with young people. Another one that we're really excited about, we started something in the school holiday which we call Games on the Green. It was very, very briefly mentioned on the Inspiring Ipswich presentation this morning. Games on the Green started because of a conversation between our youth worker and one of the local councillors, who was very, very aware that if you want to do things that change community, to build community and build relationship, it's no good just putting a piece of equipment there. You have to put people there. And as a councillor, she didn't have the people, but she had money. We had the people. So working together, they bought equipment for us, some balls, bats, parachutes, spinning round the foot things, skipping ropes,
hula hoops,
yeah, all sorts of things. And we go once a week and onto a small green space. It's not huge, but it's a green space surrounded by houses, and we leafleted about 100 houses. Got a massive return rate of about 30%, which is incredible if you know anything about leaflet drops. And we get anything 30 odd children of all ages coming along just to play games for an hour, hour and a half once a week. It sounds like something that might just be filling a bit of time for people and taking kids off parents' hands, but actually what happens is the parents come and talk to you to find out who you are, to find out what you're doing, to find out why you're doing it. And then they'll, certainly on a nice day, they can sit around the green, sit on their doorsteps and just watch and enjoy watching what's going on. We're looking at other ways that we can extend that. So hopefully, weather permitting, we'll be doing some barbecuing at the end of this month, just before the light goes and we have to stop for the winter. I'm hoping that at Christmas, Games on the Green will become Carols on the Green, which is something else that we've tried before in other places that has worked really well. So you start to build relationship with community, and as you build relationship, people start to feel that they belong, and then they start to ask the question why, and the answer to the question why is, well, that's what Jesus did. Jesus went and sat in the community, in the places where people went and talked to them about their needs, about what they wanted, and that grew into faith conversations, and the Holy Spirit takes it from there. So Games on the Green is an amazing thing, and the council are really interested in seeing how much wider we can take it. So the invitation to you on that one is, if you know of a green space anywhere near your church, or where people from your church live who might want to get involved, let us know. We'll drop you our email addresses later. We've already got 4 churches that we know of interested in doing it, and the council are prepared to start putting more money and resource into it. So hopefully next year, when the light comes back, we'll be able to launch it much wider across Ipswich. So anyone who's interested, get in touch and let us know, because we can then keep you updated on all that's going on and resource you for that.
For us, Games on the Green has been a really good way of starting to build relationship with children and families we'd never even met before. I think on the second week we went to do games with them, we were a little bit late, only by a couple of minutes, and the children were already sitting on the green, and they were going, "Where are you? You're late." So they were already starting to build relationship, and when we left them, they said, "You're not going to be late next week, are you?" And we said, "No, we don't dare."
Never been late again.
And then last week I happened to go up onto the green on a Sunday afternoon. I was visiting someone who lived on the estate, and the kids play on the green all the time, and they were all there playing. And as soon as I walked up the road near the green, I was surrounded by children, and they wanted to know why I was here, what am I doing? And you just from playing games with them, we're starting to build relationship with them. We know their names, we know where they go to school, we know things about them, and it's really exciting what happened in a very sort of short space of time. We've only met them in August, and we're already building this relationship with them, and from that relationship we've now been able to invite them on to other things. So we've been able to invite them to Messy Church, and so the invitations will keep giving them. So anything we do, we can invite those families that we've made contact with.
Yeah, the other opener, of course, is the calendar. The church has a calendar. We've got Easter, we've got Christmas, we've got all those kinds of things, harvest celebrations just going on at the moment. There's also civic calendars. You know, what are the things that society recognises? Valentine's Day. Oh, yeah, the other one we talked about this morning, Halloween. I had a really interesting conversation with a Christian about Halloween, actually, last week, just pointing out that even the name Halloween is taken from the Christian festival of All Saints' Day. It's All Hallows Eve. And the church needs to reclaim the fact that actually All Saints' Day is something that we can celebrate. We can do light parties, we can do things that speak against the darkness that can be Halloween, and we can do things that are beneficial for our kids and for our society. So how do we take things that aren't necessarily obvious and use them for God, use them in ways that engage people and families, when I think traditionally we've certainly shied away from some of those things sometimes, and almost tried to ignore it and hope it goes away, well, rather than reclaiming it and using it for something good.
I think the most important thing when you're planning and trying to work with children and families is you need to be consistent, and you need to be regular, whether that regular is 3 times a year or whether it's once a month, but be regular with what you're doing. Because if you're just doing something, some big fancy event once a year, it doesn't help you build relationship. And the most important thing is building those relationships and having those conversations. But
shall we look at some resources?
So that leads us on to what we did at St Augustine's. We were thinking many years ago, we were thinking about holiday club, and should we do a holiday club? And we brought somebody in from Script Union who came and advised us, and we worked it all through and talked about it, and we decided that actually no, holiday club wasn't the right thing for us to do at that time, because we were thinking about children and families. When you're thinking about working with children and families, especially children, you're thinking mostly of people under the age of 11. Then mostly children of that age don't choose to do something on their own. They choose to do it because their parents agree to bring them. And so to engage with an under 11, you've also got to engage with their adults. And if you're going to engage with their adults, you've got to provide for the whole family. We heard many years ago, John Hardwick, who is a children's songwriter and puppeteer and author, he said that families are split Monday to Saturday. On Monday to Friday, you've got children going to school, adults going to work and doing other things. Saturday, families are often split because there's shopping to do and there's sport to do and there's all these things to do. And we bring them to church on a Sunday, and we split them. But actually, for a lot of families, a Sunday is the only time they get to be a family. And I think that's always resonated with what we do with children and families. Actually, do we want to be splitting families on a Sunday as well? Or do we need to do something to engage a family as a whole? At St Augustine's, instead of doing holiday clubs, we decided to do what we called fun weekends. So I think we started doing 3 a year, and we'd have a Saturday and we do lots of activities with families, something that probably now would look a little bit like messy church, but that wasn't what we called it at the time. And the first one we did, we just introduced the church family as normal people. We invited church families to come and share their passions, what they enjoyed. So our vicar at the time was a train enthusiast, so he brought his train set, and we had somebody who worked for hospital radio, so he brought the decks, and we had a bit of DJing going on. Ian's a bit of a drummer, so he brought his drums. We have flower arrangers, and we have card makers, so everybody just came and brought and shared what they did. And we were just saying to the community, actually, and we're not really weird people, we're just the same as you, we have the same hobbies, and that was a real way in to start to share. And then we went on and did different themed weekends, but we really engaged with those in community around us.
Yeah, and regularity again, 3 times a year we did those. So yeah, it was an opportunity to build on the previous one, and relationships built through and through. And the church and the children's work grew and grew and grew from that. It was brilliant.
And then Sunday mornings, before we started at the church, they were thinking about what can we do for families on a Sunday morning, and they looked at what they'd got, and they'd got a toddler group. So they thought, how do we engage the toddler group and make something relevant for them on a Sunday morning? So they're going to want to come and do something. And they started, which we were in at from the beginning almost. It was a half an hour service on a Sunday morning. We started at 9:30 because we started reasonably early, because we figured that families with young children are up really early. So sometimes 10 o'clock, 10:30, 11 o'clock, it's too late for them. They've been up hours and they've done half their day before you get there. So we started at 9:30 and we just did half an hour. So it was songs, a story and prayers that was all age and relevant to everybody. And afterwards we always offered a craft, we had toys, we had refreshments, and actually the after bit was just as important as the half an hour. And sometimes the after bit would actually go on for an hour, because people didn't want to leave, because we would sit with them or we'd chat with them, you'd build relationships, we'd offer prayer if people needed it, or whatever people needed, we were there to support them. So that became a really valuable time for a lot of people. You're going to share some things now, Ian.
Share some little little toys. So we can use I'm going to fall off the chair now. Right, that's what I wanted. When we talk about resources in a bit, we'll point you at where we've got some of this stuff from. Science is a really interesting way of engaging a whole family, and it's dead easy to do. It's not scary stuff. Although I think I might have scared our eldest earlier when I tried this one in the kitchen just to make sure it was going to work. Because when I tried this morning, my 35mm film canister, do you remember those? 35mm. If you've still got any lying around, make sure it's not one that has little holes in it, because when I tried this morning, the canister just sort of bubbled away quietly and didn't do anything. Prayers going to heaven, and shooting prayers to heaven. That's one of the illustrations we've done with this. Alka-Seltzer. Possibly have some in the cupboard. If not, they're not expensive. One Alka-Seltzer tablet in a film canister, a little bit of water, and put the lid on, and put it upside down and stand well back, and come on, off you go. Went earlier. I hope you saw that. I didn't. It's gone somewhere. Oops. Really exciting little thing, and you can do that quite easily with a large group of people and show them something, but use it to talk about some matter of faith. You know, one of the really important things with any of these little things that I show you now is to keep it focused on the message. You have to make sure that the message you're giving, you've given it first, you use your illustration and give the message, and then you talk again afterwards. Otherwise, you can end up with everything being about the illustration and nobody understands what it was for. I'll always remember a curate at St. Augustine's who made a pizza in a sermon. I've no idea why she made a pizza in the sermon. No one I've talked to can remember why she made a pizza in the sermon, including the person who it was. She can't remember why she did it either. It's one of those things where the illustration just overtook the message. So always keep that message front and center. On my little plate, I've just got some water and then white pepper on, just sprinkle that onto the surface of the water. And we can talk about our impact on the world. And normally, you know, our impact on the world, I might need to hold the camera just so you can see what's going on here. So our impact on the world can be pretty negligible. You know, I can touch the world, nothing happens. But sometimes when we've got the Holy Spirit with us, God talks about how the kingdom of God goes with us, the kingdom of God that changes things. And a little bit of washing up liquid on the finger, and when you touch the surface with the pepper, all that pepper moves away. It can be an illustration, albeit fairly small. You can't do this with a large group of people, but it can be used in smaller groups to show what happens when sin is in the world and we touch the world. When we take the kingdom of God, things change. The world recoils from it because it's not because of the kingdom of God within us. With that, what else have I got here? Oh, you ever heard of something called elephant's toothpaste? It's good, good way of thinking about how something small can grow into something very big. Hydrogen peroxide, which you can just get from a chemist, and you add a few little ingredients to it. Washing up liquid. There's not a lot left in this bottle. Normally you do this with a separate bottle, and you probably do it on a larger scale, but we're only in our living room, so don't want a lot. So I put some washing up liquid, some glycerin, and let's put a bit of out-of-date blue food colouring in that we happen to have. Adds a bit of colour to it. That's always good. And then we add something very small, yeast. Yeast dissolved in a little bit of warm water. Oops. And at that point, I normally find it's necessary just to talk for a little bit, just as the reaction gets going. This one's going to go much better. That's better than this morning. Immediately something starts to grow and keep going and keep going and keep going. You can talk about the widow's jar, the oil in the jar. We can talk about something small that we do suddenly growing and spreading out and going all over the place and keeping going and keeping going, because this will go on for some time and it'll fill the tray that I've got underneath it. So things you can use there. We made little galaxy jars, I think we called them. It's some water and some oil and glitter. When you give it a shake, you've got the stars all over the place, and you can separate between the water below and the stars above, and talk about creation. There's lots of different ways that you can use things like that.
Your final favourite, Ian
my favourite.
Yeah, Ian has a reputation for fire and doing things with fire. So
I've only had one sermon that I gave where the church warden and the vicar stood at the side of the platform with fire extinguishers. Only happened once. This was something that I put together for a midnight communion at Christmas, a service where we mentioned context being important earlier. The context at the midnight communion is we've got people who are not familiar with coming to church every day or every week. They maybe come just once a year, and we know that that's how people are. So I was talking to them about how some people think about God as being someone who keeps a record of wrongs, a record of the sins that we've done. And actually, you do see that in the Bible, don't you? There's it talks about the books being opened and the deeds of man laid bare for people for all to see. So I started thinking about a list, and I just got a piece of paper and was getting ideas from people. What sort of sins, what sort of things would God have written down on his list, and we write them on the list. And then I start talking about how God purifies us. You know, if we accept Jesus and all that he's done for us, he takes our sin away. Some people can link that with refining in the fire. Maybe even use the song "Refiner's Fire," and using one of the Advent candles in the church to illustrate just how God deals with the sin. You like the piece of paper, but this is actually special paper. It's called flash paper that magicians use, and the beauty of flash paper is it leaves no ash, it gives off no smoke, it just burns. And for me, that illustration of how God deals with our sin, so that there is absolutely nothing left. It's refined in the fire, and we're refined in the fire, and the sin is completely gone. I find that a very, very powerful illustration, and it's a good hook at a time like that as well, just to wake people up, because you know anybody who speaks in church will tell you you've got about 90 seconds at the start of what you say, and if you do something like that, you get another 90 seconds immediately after it, where people are actually listening properly to what you say. So it's really important to use those moments well, and to use the illustration to show people something of the nature of God.
you've got a friend here to show you. He told me he's got, I need to tell you what his name is. His name's Rover. I've remembered what his name is. And this is a whisper puppet. This is a dog in a bag. So he's got a bag around him. So you can use him to put things in, and he can get things out of the bag, and you can use whatever's in his bag to talk about whatever you're talking about. So, or you can tell stories with him, or there's lots of ways you can use puppets and engage children and families. We've got lots of different puppets that we use. So we do things on big scales, or you can do things on smaller scales. You can use puppets to help you sing and do actions. You can use puppets through music or through drama. And it's amazing how puppets engage not just children, but they engage adults as well.
Yeah, I'm not a ventriloquist. We use these puppets for singing with. There are we can tell you where we get them from, but keep your eyes open. We were at a garden centre that had been selling some of the puppets very similar to the ones we use, for about £25 or something, £30 each, and they were selling them all off at £5 each. We wiped out everything that they'd got that we hadn't got. these flower ones that I've got here, we bought these half price in lockdown. I think we paid £10 or £12, something like that for them, which makes it very easy to get involved. Equally though, there are plenty of people around Ipswich who have got puppets. We've got several bagfuls of them upstairs. We're always really happy to show people how we use them, how they can use them, and to work with people to learn how to do it. And we know of other churches that have spare puppets around. So if you wanted to borrow something like that and give it a try, get in touch, and we can see what we can do to help resource you in that as well.
So as we were thinking about what we were going to say today, we were thinking about putting a resource list together, because there are so many resources for using with children and families. Lots of websites, lots of places to go. If you need pictures to tell a story, there's websites for it. If you need ideas for craft, there's places to go. There's you don't have to think of things for yourself. I'm a firm believer that you don't need to recreate the wheel. There's always somebody you can have an idea, and there's always someone who's done it before. So it's always worth looking. And when we were looking at, we found that actually One Way UK, which is the place we get all the puppets from, during lockdown, what they actually did was they put a whole resource page together of everything that you could possibly ever need for working with children and families. And so I think Ian's going to put
it's got everything we would have given you plus a whole load more. So yeah, why do it again? So I'll just put the link in the chat. Keep talking, Julie.
So that's got loads of amazing ideas. It's websites, Facebook pages, anything that you might need, of things you might need to go to do things with children and families. The science that Ian did, some of it's in the Messy Science book. I think even on the resource page, I think there is science stuff. There's a lady called Leslie Gray who does amazing science. If you're really interested in how to be creative with children and families, and lots of creative ideas, thinking of things like illusions and drama and balloon modelling, and I've done sign language, and lots of creative different ways of doing it. One Way UK, who are a creative ministries organisation. They started in puppets, but now they do lots of different creative ministries. They do a festival every year that we've been to for about the past 5 years. But this year they're doing it back online. They did it online last year, and they're doing it online this year. So it is on the 29th and the 30th of this month. And they're offering lots of different creative workshops to just get a flavour of what there is out there and what you can do. And I believe I saw the publicity today, and I believe all the workshops are free.
It is. Yeah,
so
it's all free.
I will try and find their Facebook post, and I'll try and put a link to it in the Ipswich Deanery Facebook page. And so that's really worth going to if you want to find anything to do with anything creative.
If you can pick that link up from the chat that I've put in, onewayuk.com /resources, you'll find information on that festival on there, as well as how to get hold of all the puppets and illusion materials and stuff like that. But all the stuff that I've done here today, it's not used anything special except the flash paper. That was the only sort of specialist thing. Everything else can come from a chemist or a supermarket. Flash paper you can just buy on Amazon. It's very easy to get. So it's not hard to get hold of the resources. The hard bit really is being creative about it, thinking, how can I illustrate this point? What will stick with people but won't overtake the message?
And I guess the only thing we haven't mentioned about working with children and families is Messy Church, but we deliberately steer clear of that because Lucy is here doing something really separate. But obviously Messy Church is the most amazing way to engage with children and families. We were doing Messy Church last night, so we're very engaged. I know, we're very tired. I'm very engaged with Messy Church. So we've got less than 10 minutes left, so I wonder if in the last few minutes has anybody got any questions or any comments or anything they want us to try and answer or explain for you.
Doesn't look like
No,
it.
I don't think so.
We've put our email addresses in the chat as well. If you want to get in touch with us and find out about any of the things that we've talked about, find out more, or have other things that you were wondering about, then do feel free to just drop us an email, and be very happy to talk more about anything.
I think when you're working with children and families, don't be afraid to try things, and don't worry if you get it wrong. And we've got loads of things wrong in the years we've been doing stuff, but you just learn from what you're doing, and you tweak, and you things evolve and change, and you never finish up doing something exactly the same as you started. Children are the first to tell you when they don't like what you're doing, and you can see from their faces and their engagement if they're enjoying what they're doing, and children see from what you're doing. You have to lead by example. So if you're trying to enthuse children and families into doing things, your enthusiasm has got to be greater than you want to see from them. So if you're doing action songs, you've got to do them with vigour and with joy, and you've got to enjoy them. And I think that's what I would say most of all, is enjoy what you're doing, because if you don't enjoy it, the children and families won't enjoy it. And I think
that and context. Think about how it fits into the place that you're doing it and the context that you're in. My mum would come and see what we were doing with the children's service that we started 20 years ago, and was so keen on just taking it back and trying to recreate it. And we, even in that situation, we were having to work and think, okay, we're in Ipswich, you're in Derby. The nature of what's going on in that area, the children that are going to come, the families, it's going to be different. How do we take the ideas and contextualize them into that place, rather than just pick it up and move it? Because you pick it up and move it and it doesn't necessarily work. One of the things that makes Messy Church work, makes Open the Book work, is that you contextualize it. If there are only 2 of you going into a school to deliver Open the Book, you do it differently. And if you've got a team of 10, or you've got a team that's got puppeteers on it, or you've got a team that has some other particular skill and delivery method, it changes. It becomes something that, whilst following the model and being in one sense the same, is completely unique to that school, that situation. So yeah, context is absolutely key in all of this.
Yeah, don't be afraid to change something to make it work from you, because most things, resources that you'll lift, some things you'll be able to use them straight off the page. Some things you'll go, well, I like that bit and I like that bit, but that bit really doesn't work. Change it, make it work. You are the people who know what the people you're serving need. Nobody else does. And the person who wrote the resource wasn't writing it for your context. It wasn't writing it for those children and families that are sitting in front of you. They were writing it for their context and the children and families that were sitting in front of them. and no situation is ever going to be absolutely identical. There's always going to be something slightly different. So yeah, don't be afraid to be creative. Don't be afraid to adapt and change things, because I think most authors and people who are writing material would much rather you used it, but used it to fit what you needed, rather than use it to exactly as they wrote it. I know Bob Hartman, who wrote the Lion Storyteller Bible that is used for Open the Book, he would much rather you make things work for him. He's an amazing guy, and if you've never heard him speak or tell stories, he's well worth listening to. But he writes stuff to be used, and that's his biggest prayer, that the stuff he writes is used, but used in a way that works for the people that are using it. So
that's right. Well, I think our time is largely done. Thank you for coming along to this. I hope you found it useful, and I hope it's given you some ideas and inspiration. If we can help any more, pick up our emails from the chat, or just get in touch with the Inspiring Ipswich crew that put the conference together, and they'll put you in touch with us. Thank you.
enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Yeah.